Every single thing you will ever study in cybersecurity comes back to three words: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Together, security professionals call this the CIA Triad, and no, it has nothing to do with the Central Intelligence Agency. It's the mental model behind every security decision you will ever make, from a simple home Wi-Fi password to a billion-dollar breach investigation. In the next few minutes, you'll learn exactly what each of these three pillars means, with a simple memory hook for each one, so it actually sticks. You'll see real, famous breaches that map perfectly onto confidentiality, integrity, and availability. You'll learn why no security team can ever max out all three pillars at once, and why that's actually fine, not a failure. And at the end, I'm going to test you to prove you've truly got this, and not just watched a video about it. Let's start at the very beginning. Why this idea comes before absolutely everything else. Before you ever touch a firewall, before you learn a single hash function, before any of the many topics still ahead of you in this course, you need this one mental model because everything else hangs on it. Here's the big idea. Every control, every tool, and every policy you will ever study in cybersecurity exists to protect exactly one thing, one or more of three properties. So from this point forward, whenever you look at any security topic, ask yourself one question: which pillar does this protect? Build that habit now, and the rest of your cybersecurity education becomes dramatically easier to organize in your head, because every new topic will already have a home to slot into. Picture three pillars, standing side by side, holding up the entire idea of information security. Every control you study later, encryption, backups, access control, all of it, is really just reinforcing one or more of these three pillars. Hold on to that picture, because we're about to walk through each pillar in detail, one at a time. Let's meet the three pillars properly, one at a time. Don't just memorize three isolated words here. For each pillar, you're getting four hooks. A plain English definition, a real-world analogy, a real breach where that pillar failed, and the real defenses that protect it. 4 hooks are much harder to forget than one word. First up, confidentiality. The short version: only the right people can see it. Here's what it actually means. Information is accessible only to the people, systems, or processes explicitly authorized to access it, and to absolutely no one else, no matter how clever, how patient, or how deep inside the network they already are. Think of it like a sealed envelope inside a locked mailbox. Someone could steal the entire mailbox. But without the key, whatever's inside that envelope is still completely useless to them. Now here's where it fails in real life. In 2017, attackers exploited an unpatched flaw in a web application at the credit reporting agency Equifax. They quietly accessed the personal records of roughly 147 million people: names, birth dates, social security numbers. Nothing was altered. Nothing was taken offline. The failure was pure exposure. That's a textbook confidentiality breach. So how do we protect it? Encryption, both in transit and at rest. Authentication and access control. Data classification. Least privilege permissions, meaning people only get access to exactly what they need and nothing more. And VPNs. You'll build most of these tools yourself later in this course, in the modules on cryptography and on identity and access management. Second pillar, integrity. The short version: data stays accurate, untampered. Here's what it actually means. Information and the systems holding it stays complete and accurate, changed only through authorized action. And if an unauthorized change ever does happen anyway, it should be detectable. Not invisible. Detectable. Think of it like a tamper evidence seal on a medicine bottle. You don't just want the bottle locked away somewhere. You want to be able to tell at a glance whether anyone who shouldn't have opened it did. Here's where it fails, and this one has real, physical world consequences. The Stuxnet worm, uncovered around 2010, didn't just break into industrial control systems at a uranium enrichment facility. It fed the operators looping sensor readings that said everything is normal, while secretly damaging the exact centrifuges those readings were supposed to be describing. The operators trusted data that had quietly stopped being true. That's an integrity failure, and it physically destroyed equipment. How do we protect it? Cryptographic hashing, digital signatures, checksums, version control, file integrity monitoring, audit logs, and change management processes. Hashing and digital signatures get their own hands-on lab later in this course. Third pillar, availability. The short version, systems stay up when needed. Here's what it actually means. Authorized users can reach the systems and data they need whenever they legitimately need them. And here's the twist people miss. A system so locked down that even its rightful owners can't use it has failed at availability, even if confidentiality and integrity are both perfect. Think of it like a store with unbreakable locks, steel shutters, and the lights permanently off. Technically, nothing inside can ever be stolen. It's also permanently out of business. Here's where it fails. In 2017, the WannaCry ransomware spread through unpatched Windows systems worldwide and encrypted files on contact, including machines across the United Kingdom's National Health Service. It locked staff out of patient records and forced hospitals to cancel appointments. Notice what didn't have to happen for this to be devastating. No data needed to be stolen. The damage was simply that authorized people could no longer reach what they needed, exactly when they needed it. How do we protect it? Redundancy and failover. Backups. Load balancing. Protection against DDoS attacks, meaning floods of junk traffic designed to overwhelm a system so real users can't get through. Patch management. And disaster recovery and business continuity planning. You'll practice detecting and responding to exactly this kind of failure later in the modules on security operations and incident response. Now let's stress test what you just learned against real scenarios. This is the habit that separates people who've memorized the triad from people who actually understand it. Looking at a situation and correctly naming which pillar or pillars it hits. As I read each one, try to answer before I give you the answer. Scenario 1. Someone reads your PIN over your shoulder at an ATM. Which pillar was hit? Think about it for a second. That's confidentiality. Information was viewed by someone unauthorized. Nothing was changed, nothing was blocked, just seen by the wrong eyes. Scenario 2. A hacker quietly edits grades in a school's database. Which pillar was hit? That's integrity. The data itself was altered without authorization. Visibility was never the issue here, accuracy was. Scenario 3. A flood of junk traffic takes an online store offline on its busiest sales day. Which pillar was hit? That's availability. Legitimate customers simply can't reach the system. Nothing was viewed, nothing was changed, they just can't get in. Scenario 4. An employee accidentally deletes a shared drive, and there's no backup. Which pillar was hit? Availability again. And notice, there's no attacker required at all here. Data and access are still lost either way, whether it's a hacker or a simple mistake. Scenario 5. An attacker on unencrypted public Wi-Fi reads your traffic as it travels across the network. Which pillar was hit? Confidentiality. Unauthorized viewing of data while it's in transit. 5 down. One more scenario coming up, and it's the trickiest one, because it doesn't hit just one pillar. Scenario 6. Ransomware encrypts a company's files, and the attackers also threaten to leak a stolen copy unless they're paid. Which pillar does this hit? Take a moment, because this one's a trick question. The answer is 2 pillars at once, availability and confidentiality. The files are locked, so authorized people can't reach them, that's availability. And a copy was exposed to the attackers, who are threatening to leak it, that's confidentiality. Real-world incidents very often hit more than one pillar simultaneously. That's actually the norm, not the exception, so get comfortable naming more than one pillar when a scenario calls for it. Now that you can spot the pillars in the wild, let's talk about something most intro material completely skips. Here's the part most intro material skips entirely, and it genuinely matters. You cannot maximize all 3 pillars at once. They actually pull against each other. Good security work isn't about applying maximum force to all 3 blindly. It's about choosing the right balance for whatever you're protecting. Here's an example. Wrap a file in 5 authentication steps and a 20-minute approval workflow, and confidentiality becomes nearly airtight. But now picture an ER doctor who has 15 seconds to make a life or death decision. That 20-minute approval workflow just made the system nearly useless to the one person who legitimately needs it right now. That's exactly why hospitals build what's called break glass emergency access, a deliberate, monitored exception that trades a little bit of confidentiality for the availability a life or death moment demands. Or flip it around. Recompute and verify a cryptographic checksum on every single file, on every read, on every system, all the time. Integrity monitoring becomes extremely thorough. But now every system in the building slows to a crawl, and you've just hurt availability instead. So remember this, the 3 pillars are not a checklist you max out. They're a set of dials. Your job, for the rest of this course, is learning which dial matters most for whatever you're protecting, and by how much. Let's lock everything so far into memory before we go any further. First hook, 3 words. What? Trusted. Reachable. Confidentiality equals locked, kept from unauthorized eyes. Integrity equals trusted, accurate, untampered, safe to rely on. Availability equals reachable, there when authorized people need it. But trusted. Reachable. Say that a few times. Second hook, 3 questions. Confidentiality answers the question, who's allowed to see this? Integrity answers, can I trust that this hasn't been changed? And availability answers, can I get to it right now? And here's a third hook, one trainers love, because it teaches you the failure mode, not just the definition. Meet the evil twin, deity. If you can name what a pillar becomes when it breaks, you understand it, not just recite it. Here's exactly how D maps onto the 3 pillars you already know. Confidentiality fails as disclosure, that's the first D. Integrity fails as alteration, that's the A. And availability fails as destruction, that's the second D. So pair them up. Confidentiality's evil twin is disclosure. Integrity's evil twin is alteration. Availability's evil twin is destruction. Every breach you will ever analyze in this field is really just one of these 3 failures happening to one of these 3 pillars. Let's pull everything together into one 60-second summary. Confidentiality. Only authorized people or systems can see the data. It fails when data is viewed, leaked, or stolen by someone unauthorized. Common defenses: encryption, access control, multi-factor authentication, and data classification. Integrity: data stays accurate, changed only by authorized action. It fails when data is altered, corrupted, or forged without detection. Common defenses: hashing, digital signatures, audit logs, and version control. Availability: authorized users can reach systems and data when needed. It fails when systems go down, get locked, or become unreachable. Common defenses: backups, redundancy, load balancing, and DDoS defense. Confidentiality. Integrity. Availability. But trusted. Reachable. If you only remember one thing from this entire lesson, remember those 6 words. Now let's see if it actually stuck. It's your turn now. I'm going to ask you 7 questions. Don't just listen passively. Actually answer each one out loud, or pause and write it down before moving to the next. Retrieval, not rereading, is what actually builds long-term memory. That's not a suggestion, it's how memory works. Question 1. A hospital's patient records system goes down mid-shift after an attack, and doctors can't pull up charts. Which pillar was hit? Question 2. An attacker breaks into a bank's systems and silently edits account balances. Which pillar was hit? Question 3. An employee's unencrypted laptop, full of customer data, is stolen from their car. Which pillar was hit? Question 4. Fill in the mnemonic. Confidentiality equals blank. Integrity equals blank. Availability equals blank. Question 5. What are the 3 letters of the evil twin triad, and which pillar does each one break? Question 6. A ransomware attack both encrypts a hospital's files and leaks a stolen copy online. Name both pillars affected. And question 7. In one sentence each, define confidentiality, integrity, and availability without looking back and without me giving you any hints. Take your time. When you're ready, here come the answers. Let's check your answers. Score yourself honestly. Whatever you got wrong is exactly what you should go back and rewatch. Answer 1. Availability. The system was inaccessible to the people authorized to use it. Answer 2. Integrity. Data was altered without authorization. Nothing was necessarily hidden or taken offline. Answer 3. Confidentiality. Unauthorized parties can now view the data. Answer 4. Locked for confidentiality, trusted for integrity, reachable for availability. Answer 5. D. Disclosure breaks confidentiality. Alteration breaks integrity. Destruction breaks availability. Answer 6. Availability and confidentiality, both at once. Files were encrypted and locked, and a copy was exposed. And answer 7 is open-ended. Compare your own wording against the definitions we covered earlier. If any pillar felt shaky to explain in your own words, that's the one to go back and rewatch first. One last thing before you go. The CIA Triad is not a week one fact you file away and forget. It's the lens you will use for the rest of this entire course. Here's a quick preview of exactly where you'll meet it again. In the cryptography module, encryption defends confidentiality, and hashing and signatures defend integrity. In identity and access management, you'll trade inside the constant balancing act between keeping the wrong people out, which is confidentiality, and letting the right people in fast, which is availability. In network security, DDoS defenses exist almost entirely to protect availability. In incident response, the entire discipline is about restoring integrity and availability after something breaks them. And in risk management, you'll formally score risk by asking exactly how much confidentiality, integrity, or availability loss a given threat would cause. So here's your homework before you move on, and it takes 60 seconds. Close your eyes, or grab a piece of paper, and explain the CIA Triad out loud to an imaginary coworker, in your own words, using your own examples, not the ones from this video. Wherever you get stuck is exactly the pillar you need to go back and rewatch. Confidentiality, integrity, availability, trusted, reachable. Master these 3 words, and you've just built the foundation the next 43 weeks of this course will stand on. I'll see you in the next lesson.